Hi, welcome to SPED Talks with Jill Castle. We're going to delve a little bit into qualifying for an IEP. This is a really complicated subject, and so I've got a 45-minute training on it. You can go to my website and look for the Udemy code, and you can upload a full training on it. And if you're trying to get your kiddo qualified for an IEP, I suggest you do the whole training, because I'm just doing these to give little tidbits of information to help, but it is a pretty complex subject. So there's two things that you need to qualify for an IEP. One is you need to show that you have a disability. That disability's got to fall into one of 13 categories, and we're not going to go over all of those right now. I've got another little training I'll do on that later, but your disability needs to fall in the categories and qualify. Okay, that's one. Some of those disabilities will just be a doctor's note, and then some disabilities actually need a full psychoeducational evaluation to kind of get data and prove. And evaluations are a big deal too. We'll talk about outside evaluations versus school evaluations. This is a really confusing area for people. We'll do that on another video. And I also have a more in-depth training on that, because these are pretty heavy-duty topics. But first, you need to have the disability and fall in the 13 categories. And then second, you need to show the need for specialized instruction. This is what I always have people not really understand. I didn't understand it when I first got into it either. But specialized instructions means changing the content. So that doesn't mean accommodations. That doesn't mean I need more time for a test. It means I need a totally different test. I said that in my last video, but that's a good example. Another example of specialized instruction would be adaptive PE. That's actually a service. And services, you can get some services with 504s in other ways, but it gets really complicated, and there's money tied to IEP. There's federal and state funding that's tied to IEP that allows you to have services. So that's the whole point of getting an IEP. So services are also specialized instruction. Another example is somebody who's blind and needs a book in Braille. If they're just blind and they need a book in Braille, that's just an accommodation. If they are getting a completely different book than everybody else, that's a modification, that's specialized instruction. Another example is my own son, Anthony. For instance, he's last year was in 11th grade. He reads at a second grade reading level, maybe third grade reading level, and he wanted to take zoology because he loves animals and loves science. And for the most part, he could actually keep up with the class. But they let him in the class, and when it came time for everybody else taking a 5-page written test, he had to write one paragraph about what he had learned, or he had to do a PowerPoint to show what he had learned and demonstrate his knowledge. So they actually modified the curriculum so he could participate in the class. So that is specialized instruction. It's not just tweaking how you access what's already there. That's the main two parts to qualifying for an IEP, but it's way more complicated. Parents, I hear them say pretty often, they just don't want to qualify my kid for an IEP because they don't want to spend the money. I've been on both sides. I've been a parent, and I've also worked for the State Department, and I've also worked for the school district, and I promise that's not what it usually is. That's not usually what it is either, because those funds are already set aside, so that's not really what it's about. It's just that school districts aren't very good at explaining to you that you might not be showing enough data for the need for specialized instruction. They don't explain that to you, so you think they just don't want you to have an IEP. But what's going to happen actually is they're going to be audited by the State Department, and they're going to go through all their IEPs, and if they don't have enough data to support that, they're going to get dinged on that. So it's more about those things going on in the background that we as parents don't know about. It's not that they just don't want you to have an IEP. So once again, go to my website, which is jillancastle.com, and that's Ann with an E. And I'm going to have trainings on Udemy on these topics, and come back and see another SPED Talk soon. Thank you.